Imagine this. You wake up one morning with an unsettling thought lingering at the edges of your mind, something just beneath the surface, something you can't quite name. As you go through your day, nothing seems particularly wrong. You follow your routine, answer emails, smile at the right moments. But beneath it all, there's a quiet whisper, an invisible force guiding your every step. You hesitate before speaking your mind in a meeting. You laugh at a joke that wasn't funny. You check your phone before walking into a room, pretending to be busy just to avoid eye contact. It's subtle, it's insidious, and it's everywhere. Fear. Not the kind that screams in your face, demanding your attention. The fear of immediate danger, the fear of a snake slithering toward you or a car swerving in your direction. No, this fear is different. It's quiet. It wears disguises. It slips into your decisions, your relationships, your dreams. It tells you what to pursue and what to avoid. And worst of all, you don't even realize it's there. What if every major choice you've ever made wasn't really yours? What if the job you settled for, the relationships you maintained, the dreams you abandoned, all of it wasn't dictated by what you truly wanted, but by an invisible force keeping you within the limits of comfort and social acceptability? Think about the moments when you almost did something. You almost told someone how you really felt. You almost took that risk, almost walked away from something toxic, almost stood up for yourself. But you didn't. Not because you consciously chose not to, but because something inside of you pulled you back. A force so familiar, so deeply ingrained, that you accepted it as natural. But what if it isn't? What if you've been living inside an invisible prison your entire life, mistaking it for freedom? And here's the real paradox. The bars of this prison aren't made of iron. They're made of you, your thoughts, your conditioning, your carefully constructed identity. The walls of fear are self-imposed, and yet you never chose to build them. Or did you? This is where the question turns sinister. If fear has been making your choices for you, who are you really? Where does the real you begin and where does fear end? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, if fear were to disappear completely from your life, would you even recognize yourself anymore? That's the real horror of it. We think we know who we are. We think we're making rational choices, logical decisions, steering our own destinies. But what if that's the greatest illusion of all? What if fear has been running your life, whispering in your ear, nudging you away from the extraordinary, the unknown, the truly fulfilling? And what if, just for a moment, you could see the truth? Let's go deeper. Fear is the architect of your reality. It builds the walls of your life, determines the roads you walk, and decides which doors remain forever closed. It shapes your desires not by telling you what you want, but by telling you what is safe to want. And in doing so, it turns you into a willing prisoner, mistaking survival for freedom. But where does this invisible force come from? And why does it control you so completely? To answer this, we must go deep into the very nature of human psychology, the dark corridors of philosophy, and the mechanisms that have conditioned you since the day you were born. The shadow you refuse to face. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Fear thrives in the unconscious. It hides in the spaces you refuse to look. It is the force behind your self-sabotage, your procrastination, your endless cycle of wanting more but never truly reaching for it. But the most terrifying thing? Most of your fears were never truly yours to begin with. From childhood, you were conditioned to be afraid. Afraid of failure. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of standing out too much, of being too loud, too different, too ambitious. You were handed a set of unspoken rules. Rules about what is acceptable, what is safe, what is expected of you. This is what Jung called the collective unconscious. A vast, invisible framework of fears, beliefs, and societal expectations that you inherit simply by existing within a culture. And like an obedient servant, you internalized these rules. You made them your own. You stopped speaking your truth because you feared disapproval. You stayed in your comfort zone because you feared the unknown. You let others decide who you should be because you feared standing alone. And over time, you forgot that these fears were ever external. You believed they were you. 2. Nietzsche's warning, the herd mentality. Friedrich Nietzsche warned of the dangers of what he called the herd mentality, the unconscious, collective force that keeps individuals weak, compliant, and afraid to challenge the norm. Society rewards obedience, not courage. It teaches you that security is more valuable than self-actualization, that it's better to be liked than to be real, that it's safer to follow the path laid out for you than to carve your own. What? Because a society built on fear is a society that remains predictable and controllable. This is why fear is encouraged. Not overtly, not through threats or violence, but through something much more insidious, subtle conditioning. Schools don't teach you to think, they teach you to comply. Jobs don't reward creativity, they reward predictability. Social media doesn't promote truth, it promotes whatever keeps people in line. And so, you learn to fear stepping out of line. You learn to fear your own individuality. You learn to fear questioning too much, wanting too much, being too much. But here's the real tragedy. Most people live their entire lives without realizing this. They play it safe, follow the script, obey the invisible rules. And when they die, they convince themselves they lived well, never questioning whether their lives were truly theirs to begin with. 3. The illusion of control. Arthur Schopenhauer once described human life as a constant struggle between will and fear. We want, we desire, we strive, but at the same time we hesitate, we hold back, we avoid. And here's the cruel irony. Most people don't even want to escape their fears. They want to feel in control of them. This is why people cling to routines, to certainty, to authority figures who tell them what to do. Because as long as they feel in control of their image, their career, their reputation, they can ignore the deeper truth. They are not free. They are simply choosing which cage feels the safest. But what if you could see past the illusion? What if you could strip away everything society told you to be afraid of and ask yourself, who would I be if fear had no say in my life? That's the question most people never dare to ask. And yet, it is the only question that matters. Because the moment you ask it, everything begins to unravel. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. Now, let's go even deeper into the unseen consequences of a life ruled by fear. Fear is not just a fleeting emotion. It is a silent architect, shaping your existence in ways you rarely perceive. It doesn't just stop you from taking risks or chasing dreams. It rewires your brain, distorts your reality, and keeps you trapped in cycles of mediocrity. And the worst part? It does all of this without you even realizing it. The consequences of fear are not loud. They don't announce themselves in grand failures or dramatic breakdowns. They creep in through hesitation, through small compromises, through the quiet surrender of the life you could have lived. And before you know it, fear has stolen everything. The slow death of the authentic self. Every time you choose fear over courage, when you stay silent instead of speaking your mind, when you settle for comfort instead of growth, something inside of you shrinks. At first, it's barely noticeable. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that it's just one moment, one decision. But then it happens again, and again. And slowly, the real you begins to disappear. You become a version of yourself designed to avoid discomfort. You filter your words, your emotions, your very identity to fit what is expected, what is acceptable, what is safe. And then one day you wake up and realize, you don't even know who you are anymore. The things you once loved, they've faded. The dreams you once had, they feel childish now. The fire that once burned inside of you, extinguished, not because you chose to give them up, but because fear convinced you they were never realistic to begin with. The paralysis of overthinking. Fear doesn't always scream, it whispers. It feeds your mind endless what-ifs, drowning your instincts in hesitation. You overanalyze, you second-guess, you wait for the perfect moment. But the perfect moment never comes. Instead, you stay trapped in thought loops, convincing yourself that one day you'll be ready, that one day you'll take action. But deep down, you know the truth. You are not preparing. You are stalling. Fear has turned your mind into a prison, and you are the one holding the key, refusing to unlock the door. The cost of playing it safe. Society loves to sell you the idea that safety is the ultimate goal. Get a stable job. Follow the rules. Minimize risk. But what they don't tell you is this. Safety comes with a price. And that price is your potential. Think of the people who have changed the world. Philosophers, artists, revolutionaries, visionaries. They were not the ones who played it safe. They were the ones who rejected fear, who stepped into the unknown despite the risks. And yet, most people will never do the same. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Because breaking free from fear means letting go of certainty. And most would rather stay in a predictable, unfulfilled life than risk the unknown, even if that unknown holds everything they've ever wanted. Fear as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Perhaps the cruelest trick of all is this. The very thing you fear is often created by your own avoidance. Fear of failure makes you hesitate, and hesitation leads to failure. Fear of rejection makes you withdraw, and withdrawal leads to loneliness. Fear of change keeps you stuck, and staying stuck leads to suffering. You think fear is protecting you, but in reality, it is creating the very pain you are trying to avoid. And until you see through this illusion, you will stay trapped in it forever. The final question, what if you woke up? What if, just for a moment, you stopped listening to fear? What if you took the risk, spoke your truth, made the leap? What if you stopped waiting for permission? Who would you become? The answer is terrifying. Because the moment you step outside of fear's control, you are no longer the person you were. You are something else entirely. Something powerful. Something unstoppable. And that is precisely why fear exists. Not to protect you. Not to keep you safe. But to keep you from realizing what you are truly capable of. And that is where the rebellion begins. Now let's break free. Imagine standing at the edge of everything you've ever feared. The moment before you take the leap. The moment before you speak your truth. The moment before you decide, once and for all, that fear will no longer dictate your life. Your heart pounds. Your mind screams at you to stop. Every instinct tells you to turn back. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a voice whispers, what if this is the moment everything changes? The lie of fear, what they never told you. Fear is not reality. It is a suggestion. It tells you that failure is the end. That discomfort is dangerous. That the unknown is to be avoided at all costs. But fear is a liar. Failure is not the end. It is the beginning of mastery. Discomfort is not dangerous. It is the birthplace of transformation. The unknown is not your enemy. It is your only path to freedom. If you can recognize fear for what it is, not an absolute truth but a conditioned response, you can begin to dismantle its control. The death of the old self. Breaking free from fear is not an easy process. It is a death of the person you were before fear ran your life. And death is painful. To truly escape, you must be willing to sacrifice the comforts that keep you trapped. The comfort of approval. The comfort of certainty. The comfort of familiarity. You must become the person who is willing to be uncomfortable. Because that is the price of freedom. The Nietzschean solution, will to power. Nietzsche believed in the concept of will to power, the drive to overcome, to create, to rise above limitations. Fear weakens your will. It convinces you that you are small, that you are incapable, that the world is too powerful and you are too insignificant. But what if you reversed it? What if, instead of fearing failure, you desired it, because you knew it would make you stronger? What if, instead of avoiding discomfort, you welcomed it, because you knew it was shaping you into something unstoppable? This is the shift that separates those who remain trapped from those who break free. Fear doesn't disappear. But the moment you stop resisting it, the moment you decide to embrace it, you realize something shocking. Fear was never the enemy. It was the training ground. The first rebellion, do what scares you. Fear controls you through avoidance. The more you avoid something, the more power it has over you. So the first act of rebellion is simple. Move toward what scares you. Speak the uncomfortable truth. Take the risk you've been postponing. Do the thing you've convinced yourself you're not ready for. Not recklessly. Not impulsively. But deliberately, intentionally, as an act of defiance against the force that has kept you small. Because every time you confront fear, its grip weakens. And one day you wake up and realize, it no longer owns you. The final test, who do you choose to be? Fear wants you to wait. Wait until you're ready. Wait until you're certain. Wait until it's safe. But here is the truth. You will never be ready. You will never be certain. And it will never be safe. The question is not whether fear will disappear. The question is, who will you be in spite of it? Because at the end of your life, when you look back, there will only be two realities. The version of you that obeyed fear, that stayed small, that lived within invisible walls. The version of you that rebelled, that stepped into the unknown, that truly lived. And the difference between them? A single moment. A single decision. And that decision belongs to you. Now it's time for the ultimate truth. There comes a moment in life when you realize that everything you feared was nothing more than a shadow, a ghost projected by your own mind. You spent years avoiding discomfort, running from rejection, hesitating at the edge of possibility. You let fear whisper in your ear, dictate your actions, shape your identity. But now, standing on the other side of it all, you see the truth. Fear was never real. Not in the way you thought. It was a mirage, one that dissolved the moment you walked through it. The prison you built, and how to escape it. Look back for a moment. Every lost opportunity, every hesitation, every moment of regret, they all stemmed from one thing: your unwillingness to face fear. But what if fear was never the real problem? What if the true prison was your belief that fear had power over you? Because the reality is, fear is nothing more than a sensation, a chemical response in your brain. It is not a prophecy. It is not an omen. It does not predict the future. And yet, you let it shape your destiny. But what if, from this moment forward, you didn't? The paradox of fear, the only way out is through. Here's the cruel irony of fear. The only way to make it disappear is to do the very thing you're afraid of. Avoidance keeps it alive. Resistance feeds it. Overthinking strengthens it. But action? Action destroys fear. The moment you step into what you once thought was terrifying, you realize something profound. Fear never had power. You did. And now you're taking it back. The uncomfortable truth no one tells you. There is no secret formula to fearlessness. No magic mindset. No perfect preparation. No special trick that will make fear vanish before you take action. The only truth is this. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what must be done despite fear. Fear is a test, a challenge that exists to see if you are worthy of the life you say you want. Most people fail that test. They wait for permission. They wait for certainty. They wait for fear to disappear. And they wait forever. But you won't. Because now you see the truth. Fear is not a wall, it is a doorway. A doorway leading to everything you have ever wanted. The only question is, will you walk through it? The final realization, the death of the old you. The person you were before, the one controlled by fear, by hesitation, by doubt, no longer exists. They died the moment you decided they were no longer in charge. And in their place something new is born. Someone who doesn't wait. Someone who doesn't flinch. Someone who looks fear in the eye and moves forward anyway. Not because they are fearless, but because they have finally understood. Fear was never the enemy. It was the catalyst, the doorway, the test. And now you have passed it. So go. What? And never let fear control you again.